Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's LawLytics webinar. Thanks for joining us. Today's topic is how to pick the most effective colors for your law firm's website. And before we get into that, I just want to say congratulations to Mark Faisal. All right, colors. This part of the marketing is fun. It's the creative stuff. And when done right, it can really help give your law firm's brand a great look and feel. It's going to instill confidence in any potential new client. It also will help guide the user's experience on your website. Before we begin, just a reminder, all of our webinars, the accompanying PowerPoint slides are always available. You can watch them on demand at your convenience. So if you can't join us every Thursday, simply go to lawlytics.com/webinars and click on the On-Demand Record Webinars tab. Again, you can view any of them from there. And while you're there, you can check out the full list of our upcoming webinars scheduled all the way through September of next year. There's definitely something for everyone. Feel free to sign up now, and we'll remind you down the road as they approach. Like I said, today's webinar is about colors, how to pick the best ones for your law firm's website, and for your overall brand for that matter. Now, colors can be very subjective, but with today's webinar, we hope to provide an objective base for your decision making. Your website is usually the first visual impression a potential client gets of you and of your firm. What do you want it to say about your firm? Will it instill and inspire and reassure them, or will it cause doubt or anxiety and trigger that part of the brain that governs flight or mistrust? Believe it or not, color has a big say in what your potential clients subconsciously feel about your website and subsequently about your firm. Whether we like to admit it or not, people do judge books by their covers. A color sets a mood, it creates an emotional response in anyone who views it. It's the same as with your physical office. You want potential clients to feel at ease. You want them to be able to concentrate on the important matter at hand and feel confident that your office can help them. So color, like first impressions, do matter. Set the wrong mood or create an undesired emotional response, and it's going to be an uphill struggle from there. You'll have put people in the wrong frame of mind to absorb your content or to consider hiring your firm, or you may lose their trust altogether. So what colors are you thinking about for your firm? Law firms in particular probably don't want to use puce. It's as ugly as the word is, like in this slide, or anywhere on your site. So that's fairly safe to say. But as the backdrop for the rest of this webinar, I think it's important to reiterate, colors can create feelings. They can create feelings of doubt or mistrust, and that can be difficult to recover from. But colors can also reinforce a law firm's branding, the messaging, the overall perception that you are the best choice for legal representation. It's not just about colors themselves, too. It's how they interact, how they impact specific messages, posts, calls to action on your web pages, and how they can help guide a reader's eyes through a series of messages. When considering how colors will work best for your website, take a holistic approach, keeping in mind your overall brand and all of its components. To demonstrate what I mean, let's take a quick look at 3 website homepages that were voted by one arbiter of web design the worst or ugliest on the web last year. Ta-da! The winner for the worst or ugliest are most likely to induce vomiting in a viewer. I think there is actually some puce on this page. However, this was intentional. The site was created purposefully to look as bad as possible. This one wasn't. I couldn't even get all of the homepage into my screenshot. You're welcome. This is the polar opposite of a page that guides its viewer along. And coming in third for the bronze medal is this one. Again, what's the anticipated user experience on this website? What are the colors accomplishing? All 3 of these examples share common traits. It's nearly impossible to know where to look first. The messaging is, well, it's a mess. And the colors clash, compete, and generally result in confusion. These are extreme examples for sure. Obviously, any brand worth its salt would never do this. But some small firms who are just beginning to understand their brand and its place in the internet make mistakes similar to some of those found on these sites. They are great examples for law firms of what not to do. But what should we do? Let's take a step back and think just about color in relation to brands. When we consider the branding world at large, it's plain to see that many brand images are inherently defined by their color. Fast food brands, and all restaurants really, need to be very conscious of their color choices. Ray Kroc and McDonald's studied colors and their effect on people's hunger and discovered the red and yellow combination made people hungry as well as it made them feel in a hurry. Both good effects for a fast food establishment who want people to order food and get along. Would it matter if they had used these colors? Quarter pounder, anyone? Yes, it would have mattered. But no, they would have never used these colors. I exaggerate the color differences to make another point. Quite often, our gut responses can guide us quite well on what colors we shouldn't use. It's a little harder to pick what colors we should. So let's step back from brands and remind ourselves about the foundation of how we see colors and how where we see them make a difference. And the general theory is that humans refine their eyesight faster than the other senses because it furthered survival the most. As our world became more civilized, our eyesight began to help with the aesthetic decision-making. We evolved to use colors to set the mood, to catch attention, and to send all kinds of messages. Now, as a foundation for the rest of this webinar, a little refresher, the history of color and how designers approach that subject in 3 minutes or less. Ready? All right. Without light, there would be no color. Light is made up of energy waves which are grouped together in what is called the spectrum. Light that appears white to us, such as light from the sun, is actually composed of many colors. The wavelengths of light are not colored, but produce the sensation of color. The wavelengths our eyes can detect are only a small portion of the electromagnetic energy spectrum. We call this the visible light spectrum. At one end of the visible spectrum are the short wavelengths of light we perceive as blue. At the other end of the visible spectrum are longer wavelengths of light we perceive as red. All the other colors we can see in nature are found somewhere along the spectrum between blue and red. Red, yellow, and blue are the primary colors. Orange, green, and purple are the secondary colors, followed by tertiary colors, and on and on. The 3 circles at the bottom of this slide are color wheels. For centuries, different designers have found ways to use color combinations effectively to create images that look lifelike, stir the imagination, and get their audience to feel different emotions. The first color wheel was invented by Sir Isaac Newton. He split white sunlight into red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, and blue beams. Then he joined the 2 ends of the color spectrum together to show the natural progression of colors. A century later, Goethe began studying the psychological effects of colors. He noticed that blue gives a feeling of coolness, and yellow has a warming effect. Goethe created his own color wheel, showing the psychological effect of each color. He divided all the colors into 2 groups, the plus side from red through orange to yellow, and the minus side from green through violet to blue. Colors of the plus side produce excitement and cheerfulness. Colors of the minus side are associated with weakness and unsettled feelings. Now, this was Goethe's theory. The current form of color theory was developed by Johannes Itten. He was a Swiss color and art theorist who was teaching at the School of Applied Arts in Weimar, Germany. We know this as Bauhaus. Itten developed color chords and modified the color wheel. Itten's color wheel is based on red, yellow, and blue colors as a primary triad and includes 12 hues. Today, color wheels are a way to represent the various characteristics of color, and there are a variety of color wheels to show different characteristics. One might be useful to show tints of color, another might be useful to show shades of color. Since there are different ways to express color relationships, there are different color wheels to represent those relationships. The color wheel here is an RGB color wheel, which is based based on the primary colors of red, blue, and green. Red, yellow, and blue, red, blue, and green. Known by designers as the RGB system. One way to use this system is to match colors that are opposite or triangulated from each other on the wheel. These combinations can give the perception of popping off the page or screen. Now, I mentioned RGB, and it's very important for our focus on website colors. The RGB color model is an additive color model in which red, green, and blue light are added together in various ways to reproduce a broad array of colors, the foundations. The main purpose of the RGB color model is for the sensing, representation, and display of any images in electronic systems, such as your computer. Though it has been used in conventional photography and television, before the electronic age, the RGB model was used behind the whole human perception of colors theory. RGB, thus, is device dependent. Different devices detect or reproduce a given RGB value differently. Since the color elements, such as phosphorus or dyes, they respond differently to different individual levels, and they vary by manufacturer to manufacturer, and even on the same device over time. Thus, an RGB value does not define the same color across devices without some kind of color management. This is why the same color image can look different on two different monitors. Typical RGB input devices are color TV and video cameras, image scanners, and digital cameras. Typical RGB output devices, like I said, TV, computers, plasma screens, even mobile phone displays and video projectors. One thing to keep in mind is that color printers, on the other hand, they use CMYK. CMYK is what printers use to base all their outputs. All right, bear with me. We're almost through the background here. For printing, there's also a system of colors called Pantone. These are used by brands for consistency in their print ads, billboards, point-of-sale pieces, etc. Many brands have had their own Pantone color created for them, which they've trademarked. Pantone actually has a Color of the Year award. They probably don't poll lawyers on this, and actually last year it was emerald. But for our purposes, colors used on websites, though based on the RGB model, have evolved to be defined, for the most part, by an HTML color system. So when it comes to the exact colors on websites, designers use HTML color hex triplet codes. A hex triplet is a 6-digit, 3-byte hexadecimal number used in HTML, CSS, SVG, and other computer applications, and they represent the colors. The bytes represent the red, green, and blue components of the color. All the colors used on your website have their own specific hex triplet numbers. Here are some more examples of sample HTML colors with their codes. By using the codes, your brand's color will maintain consistency throughout your website. We always recommend hiring a professional to create your website, including the color palette for your brand. But if you don't have the budget and are inspired to do it yourself, you'd be better served if you use one of the standard color creation and matching systems that are on sites online, like colorblender.com, which is great for seeing which colors blend well with others and provides lots of options for matching colors. Colors on the web.com also has a color wizard that's easy to use as well. All right, color history lesson is over. Now, since RGB is the foundation for all colors used on the web, let's take a look at emotional and psychological underpinnings and responses to the primary and secondary colors. Red, that's the R in RGB, obviously. It's often associated with passion. It's the color of blood. It's also associated with energy, war, danger, strength, power, determination, desire, and love. Red is very emotional. Studies have shown it can enhance human metabolism, even increase the respiration rate, and raise blood pressure. It has very high visibility, which is why stop signs, stoplights, and the equipment used on fire trucks are painted red. In heraldry, red is used to indicate courage. And it's also a color found on a lot of flags. Red brings text and images to the foreground. Use it as an accent color to stimulate people to make quick decisions. It's the perfect color for that buy now or click here button on internet banners or on your website. In advertising, red is often used to evoke erotic feelings, the red lips, the red nails, red light districts, lady in red, etc. Red is also widely used to indicate danger, high voltage signs, traffic lights, like I said. Whereas light red is often used to represent joy, passion, sensitivity, and love. And pink can signify romance and friendship. It can connote a feminine quality and passiveness as well. Dark red is associated with vigor, willpower, even anger, but also leadership. Red is not a color often used on law firm websites. But as long as it's not too dominant, it can provide a nice touch of passion. The slide here is a screen grab from the Jones Law Firm homepage, where they've incorporated red throughout without overdoing it. It's in their logo, their contact buttons, in their image slider behind the copy, in their headline, and other places as well. It conveys a firm that is passionate about defending people accused of crimes. Next, the color yellow. Yellow is the color of sunshine. It's associated with joy, happiness, intellect, even energy. Studies have shown yellow can produce a warming effect, arouse cheerfulness, stimulate mental activity, and generate muscle energy even. Yellow is also associated with food, like we saw with the McDonald's logo. Bright, pure yellow is a real attention getter, which is the reason taxi cabs and school buses are painted this color. But when overused, yellow may have a disturbing effect. Research has revealed that babies cry more in yellow rooms. So Mark, I hope you heard that. Yellow is seen before other colors when placed against black. This combination is often used to issue a warning. Okay. Yellow is very effective for attracting attention, but light yellow tends to disappear into white, so don't combine those. It's usually needs to be a darker color to highlight it. Shades of yellow are visually unappealing because they lose cheerfulness and can become dingy looking. For example, dull yellow can feel like decay or sickness. This slide on the screen is from the homepage of IC Bus. They're the largest manufacturer of school buses, and we know we always associate yellow in buses with schools. Okay, next, the color blue. Our world has been referred to as the big blue marble. Blue is the color of the sky and of the sea. It's associated with depth and stability. It symbolizes trust, loyalty, wisdom, confidence, intelligence. It's considered beneficial to the mind and body, and studies have shown it can slow human metabolism and produce a calming effect. Blue is strongly associated in heraldry to symbolize sincerity. It's also a very popular color in law firm websites, and clearly we understand why. As opposed to emotionally warm colors like red, orange, and yellow, blue is linked to intellect. Blue is also used by a lot of tech and internet companies as it suggests precision without being too cold. Blue is traditionally a masculine color, but this has evolved in our generation. When used together with warm colors like yellow or blue, it can really create a high impact. Light blue is associated with health, healing, tranquility, even softness. Dark blue has been used to represent power, integrity, and seriousness. This slide is from the homepage. Oh, wait a second. I know these guys. Anyway, the next we get on to secondary colors, starting with green. Green is the color of nature and conservation, and it can symbolize growth, freshness, fertility. It has a strong emotional correspondence with money, naturally, because our money is green. Green also is known to represent healing. It's the most restful color to the human eye. It can improve readability. See how the white really pops off the green here. But in language, it denotes the lack of experience. For example, the word greenhorn, meaning a novice. Green, as opposed to red, means safety. It's the color of free passage in road traffic. And darker green is commonly associated, along with money, but to the financial world in general, banking, and Wall Street as well. Dark green is also sometimes associated with ambition or greed or jealousy. Law firms should avoid using yellow green, which has a pretty unpleasant connotation and can indicate sickness or cowardice or discord and jealousy. But aqua is associated with healing and protection, while olive green is a traditional color of peace. So you see there's a lot of variations. This slide is a screen grab from the homepage of the Schiffer Law Firm. They've used it to frame the main image on the homepage as well as backdrop for their copy. Like I said, the white copy pops off of the screen. It also provides a calming border to an image that conveys a little bit of trouble. This is actually a good point for law firms. Use color on your site to accentuate your messaging in your more visceral imagery, which is aimed at relating with your potential clients' legal troubles and situations. The photo on this page would have a very different feel if it was framed in, say, light blue or orange. The next of the secondary colors. Orange combines the energy of red and the happiness of yellow. It is associated with a lot of things, joy and sunshine. It can represent enthusiasm, creativity, and it definitely is an attractive color. To the human eye, orange is very hot, so it gives a sensation of heat. Nevertheless, orange is not as aggressive as red. Studies show that orange increases oxygen supply to the brain, so I try to be around orange a lot. It produces an invigorating effect and stimulates mental activity. It's highly accepted among young people. It's considered kind of a youngish color. It has high visibility, so you can use it to catch attention and highlight the most important elements of your design. Orange is also a color associated with fall because of leaves and harvest, and it can be a symbol of strength and endurance. A close relative associated with orange is gold, which can evoke feelings of prestige. The meaning of gold is illumination and wisdom and wealth, and it can symbolize pretty high quality. This slide is from the homepage of Hershey's Reese's Candy, and I think it illustrates that orange is a tough color for use by law firms, except in small accents, like call to action buttons or borders. But even there, it must be used sparingly. Here's a law firm that uses it pretty well. Sandage Bell's site use of orange isn't too jarring. It's right at the border there. And the type reversed out in white is easy to read. It provides a nice foundation for the homepage, which utilizes blurred photography, has clear icons and button bars, which are very effective in this format. The user experience is very clear. Orange, like other secondary colors, are great for accenting what would otherwise be a very dry page. Still, used more than this, orange could become a real concern for a law firm's website, and it can be a challenge to use accent colors effectively in other branding pieces. So if you decide to use a strong accent color, like orange, on your website's homepage, ask yourself how that color is going to work in your other marketing pieces. Now, the smartest brands have an integrated look throughout all of their advertising, and consistently incorporating orange may be a real challenge. So integration is either going to have to be sacrificed at times, or you're going to maybe want a different color. Now there's another accent color. This is the last of the secondary colors, and that's purple. Purple combines the stability of blue and the energy of red. It can be associated with royalty. It symbolizes nobility and luxury. It conveys wealth and extravagance. Studies show that people associate purple with wisdom, dignity, independence even, and creativity, also with mystery and magic. According to surveys, almost 75% of pre-adolescent children prefer purple to all other colors. Purple is a very rare color in nature. Some people consider it to be artificial. Light purple can evoke romantic and nostalgic feelings. Dark purple can evoke gloom and sad feelings. This slide is from the Thams Designs homepage. Like orange, purple is a color that should probably be used sparingly by law firms, but as an accent, it can add quite a bit of personality. The same issue arises as to using it in other branding pieces, like with orange, so keep that in mind. The last two colors we'll quickly refer before jumping into brands and law firms are sort of not colors, in my opinion, like white, which technically is the absence of color. But nonetheless, it is very prominent on the web. White is associated with goodness, innocence, also virginity. It's considered to be the color of perfection. As opposed to black, white usually has a positive connotation. White can represent a successful beginning. It can represent purity. In the SEO world, people refer to white hat tactics to refer to good ethical practices, which harkens back to the Wild West, where the sheriff always had the white hat, and the good guys wore white hats. White is also used by charitable organizations. It's associated with hospitals, doctors, and sterility. In advertising, white is associated with coolness and cleanliness. It's used to suggest simplicity in high-tech products, as Apple and Google have done so well. White is also associated with space-age technology, like spacesuits and rockets and NASA. This slide is from Apple's homepage. Apple really started to own white with its iPod earphones, but now it's a dominant theme throughout all their website and packaging. White feels right for Apple. And the last color we're going to look at is black. And what did Dylan say about black? Black is the color and none is the number. It can be dark. It can be the color of doomsday. But designers have found ways to use it to convey solidity, consistency, and power. It can feel sleek and modern. It's associated with elegance and formality, but also evil and death and mystery. Black is sometimes associated with fear and the unknown, like with black holes. In language, it can have a negative connotation: blacklist, black humor, black death, like I said, black hat techniques. But black can also denote strength and authority, and is considered to be a very prestigious color, like a judge's black robes, black tie events, that little black evening dress, and black limousines. In heraldry, black is a symbol of grief. But black gives a feeling of perspective and depth on a web page, and a black background can also diminish readability. Black contrasts well with bright colors. Combined with red or orange, other very powerful colors that we've discussed, black gives a very aggressive color scheme. Here, the slide is from the homepage of Susser Law Firm, which, while serious, works well with the friendly image of the attorney. Now let's move on to how certain brands have owned certain colors and how that can affect the colors used in their marketing and on their websites. First, we have to acknowledge that color cues are big for any brand that has an edible product, which obviously law firms don't. When I worked on rebranding Altoids mints, my creative director spent hours finding that right shade of green to convey both the curious and the strong side of Altoids. And this shade of green was the background for all of our ads and the branding and all of our website. It actually is also a popular color for mental hospitals. Many brands are defined by color, and studies have reinforced the power of color. One study in particular by the Branding and Marketing Group found that color increases brand recognition by up to 80%. It can improve readership, like on your web pages, by as much as 40%. It can accelerate learning because of that readability, and it can increase comprehension. Color ads are read 42% more than similar ads in black and white. And color can be up to 85% of the reason people decide to buy a brand. It's colorful stuff. It's important stuff. I talked briefly about McDonald's earlier. So what colors do their biggest competitor use? Looks kind of similar color-wise, except Burger King has added that blue circle. When you consider the colors for your website, look at what your competitors are using and ask yourself if that matters to be different or similar. One important thing to really keep in mind: how colors on your website facilitate that viewer's experience. This is the Smithsonian's homepage. There's a minimal use of color, and the viewer's journey is easy to see. The Smithsonian is all about facilitating access to knowledge, and the way their website is laid out facilitates readability and the gaining of knowledge, which in turn furthers brand building through easy consumer engagement. It's a subtle reminder of how information is often best served on a white page. Like with books and newspapers and magazines, they've done it forever. All right, and when you think of other brands, say like Nike or Ford, do you think of a specific color? Most likely not. But if I said big blue, many might think of IBM. Probably more so for the older audience, but surely blue is a color of IBM, and their competition seems to have noticed. For looky here, clearly blue is a big color in tech, especially in combination with white. It helps create an analytical yet personable feel. So how do brands and your law firm decide on its colors? They start by remembering what they're all about. What's their unique selling proposition? What are the reasons to believe this? Many then perform a competitive review. All of these efforts help inform their brand and their marketing strategy. It's obviously not as simple as picking your favorite color. It's finding ways for colors to tell your story in an authentic way. Let's compare a few contemporary brand rivals. I mentioned Nike. This is their current website in the United States. And this is Adidas's website. Quite similar. The website becomes a backdrop to accentuate their colorful products. Color is used for buttons and calls to action. These approaches are similar to those used by car companies. Take Ford. for example, and compare this page with Toyota. White and off-white spaces are used for buttons and bars. The real colors on their pages are saved for their cars, the essence of their brand. Next, consider some new brands. What are the dominant colors for today's super brands? White is dominant. Look at Google's homepage and all of their other pages. And blue. It's a color combination that facilitates readership while maintaining a bit of personality. The use of white and blue entails ease of use and simplicity. They also allow other spots and icons of color to really jump out for emphasis. And this is a popular brand today with their IPO. Small splashes of colors on white and blue are reserved for calls to action. Remember how blue and yellow were triangulated opposites on the color wheel? This is why this works. They pop. The principle can be seen in action here on this Twitter page. LinkedIn uses a little bit of blue and white, but they also use black. It's a more serious social media. It's the business side of all these. And when you have an update, like with Facebook and on LinkedIn, it's that little red balloon, right? How quickly, when you land on either of these social media sites, do you look for that little red spot? How does such a tiny little dab of red jump out so well? Now, what about law firm websites? Like I said, blue is a very popular color. It feels official, it feels serious, yet it's also personable. For defense firms, it provides a nice counterbalance to the blue often found on police uniforms. Whites, grays, and blacks help guide the user's journey on this page, but swaths of color like blue give the cool psychological feel that everything's going to be okay. Other firms, like Weil, use more white and black, with only the real colors being the accent from their logo, which for them is green. This green informs the use throughout the page, and it's effective accentuation for their calls to action as well as to different sections they want to read. But if I started this section of the webinar and said a limeish green was a great color to use on a legal website, you'd have thought I was out of my mind. So it's important to remember as an accent to guide the viewer to important steps in the journey on your website. Any color is fair game, although I think puce may still be of tall order. What other colors feel right for your use of accents on a legal website? Golds and browns, they can work well. They don't overwhelm, and they can frame the real important colors on the site, which, as seen here, come from the photograph. Words and clickable buttons utilize white and are often reversed out for ease of readability. It's a challenge to use color in such a serious industry as the law profession. The bulk of my career was spent working on packaged goods, and colors easily flow there. Even in the 8 years I worked on Scotch accounts, a serious drink provided a lot of opportunities for use of different colors. The trick for legal websites, in my opinion, is to convey that you mean serious business while also demonstrating via color that you're human, that you're passionate about your practice, and you care deeply about your clients. So they'll feel comfortable hiring you. So like here with Mr. Green's firm's website, we see color reserved for the doses of humanity and for the logo and the branding of their name, contact information. There are, of course, always exceptions, and this webinar is not meant to really, it's just meant to really give you the basics in color theory and share examples with you on what brands are doing, as well as sharing some of the best practices in the legal arena. So you can use color effectively yourself to guide potential clients with that right experience on your website. That way, they can get to the meat of what your practice is all about and not get distracted or turned off by color. And to be clear, when used right, color can have a real effective emotional impact. Like here. Had they used red everywhere in the border, it wouldn't have worked nearly as well. So use color to tell your law firm's story and to provide a backdrop for the wording and contact information and calls to action, and color will serve you well. And ask yourself and your colleagues, what do you stand for? What makes your firm special and different from your competitors? And check out what they're doing on their websites color-wise. Also, what are your potential new clients really looking for? What emotions are they probably feeling? And what colors will connect with those emotions? Are there visual cues that you want to bring in from your practice area, from your locality, from the actual physical office you have to help tell your story and connect with the online world? And finally, it may be best to think of colors as a template to lay your story out in. Similar to your office, when potential clients come to visit, how do you want them to feel? A green couch is one thing. An entire office painted green is obviously something to be avoided. Okay, hopefully this webinar will give you some logical foundation to what can be a very subjective task. Selecting colors wisely for your website and your overall brand is important. All right, I think I'm blue in the face now, so thank you for your time. Oh, before you go, I want to give you a heads up. You're definitely going to want to check out next LawLytics webinar next Thursday. We've got ROI for lawyers, the long game versus the short game. It's going to be a less subjective webinar than this one on color, and it'll be presented by a man with a lot of successful law practice experience, Dan Jaffe. It'll surely be worth your time. But if you have a conflict and can't attend, don't get red in the face or green with envy because your associates were able to view it. You can see any of our past webinars as well as the complete list of our upcoming Thursday webinars anytime at lawlytics.com/webinars. And finally, if you have any questions or comments about today's webinar, please feel free to write me directly at kit@lawlytics.com. And for our friends on Twitter, feel free to tweet your questions using the hashtag LawLyticsU. Thanks and have a great day.